Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the first online live premiere of Next Steps, a film about leaving care by care leavers Matthew Cooper and Daniel Kifel. So wonderful to have you all here this evening. Thank you so much for joining in, and thank you to all of you that are putting a lot of love in the comments section. It's great to see and hear from you all. Well, tonight, as you know, we have both the exciting premiere of the film. We also have a guest panel. We have waiting in the wings, our wonderful guests that are ready to get going. But before we do that, we want to hit the ground running and show you this incredible film. So please sit back and enjoy Next Steps.
It was very scary. I did cry on the first night I came here.
First thing, I wasn't sure about it. A little nervous, strange people, I don't know them.
So it started off a bit bumpy where I went through so many social workers. I think in the first few years I went through about 5 or 6.
I did struggle to make friends and I did struggle to get along with people because we had such different lives.
After years of living within the comfort of the care system, it's no surprise that it can cause distress for young people at 18 who have to move from being in care to begin their own independent lives. This can prove to be a distressing, uncertain time for young people who have to enter and navigate the adult world without knowing how it operates. They have to learn to manage their own bills, cook their own meals, and pay rent from a very young age, all because of a decision they had no say in. My name is Matthew Cooper. I'm 25 years old and I'm an aspiring filmmaker. Over 8 years ago, I too faced the same situation as these young people. I too was forced to transition into independent living 2 weeks before my 18th birthday. Back then, I struggled to navigate this new stage of my life as I was seemingly faced with an unknown future. Now, after years of support and hard work, I managed to move into my own apartment, graduate from university, and pursue a career as a mainstream filmmaker. I know there are numerous young people out there who are about to move away from the home they loved to face a seemingly uncertain future. So, in this film, me and my team want to make people aware of the financial, educational, and emotional support they'll receive upon moving from care and what employment opportunities that can be offered to them. Me and my crew travelled across Cambridgeshire to talk to 4 care leavers who have taken that next step into a new part of their lives. This is Maz, Tyler, Kyra, and Shannon. And this is their story. To give an idea of what support young people will gain, we'll begin with education, work and training, where we will show how care leavers navigate through their education whilst living on their own. We first spoke with Maz and Tyler, who discussed their current studies and what educational and aspirational goals they wish to achieve.
So, this might be far a stretch, but when I was at school, when I started my year 11 in college, and I wasn't familiar with the education system here, so I was placed in different modules, different subjects, so I went with the flow because I didn't know what to pick. And then just my BE teachers, they were just, I was gonna say that they make me feel like, of all the subjects I've learned and all the subjects I attended, this is kind of feels like more enthusiastic, more I would get into it. So, and I would get on well with my PE teachers. And then I was like, this is what I would be doing. So, and then as soon as I left school, college, so I started study sport to reach that goal. So, yeah, might be a couple years early, but we'll get there.
I study Level 3 Sports Extended Diploma at CRC, and I am looking to then go and study sports coaching and physical education at Anglo in Cambridge. I currently play cricket for Histon and a midweek team called the Jaguars. And I used to play rugby for Shelford, but quit quite recently because I wasn't enjoying it as much anymore. So education, I'm pursuing a BTEC in Level 3 sport, and my current goal is to then complete uni and become a PE teacher or a sports coach.
After our interviews with Maz and Tyler, we then travelled to the Bury St Edmunds YMCA to speak to Shannon Russon, an inspiring actress who has travelled down from Wales to visit her sister Kyra.
Well, I do a drama and theatre studies course. I'm very much at the moment doing group work and solo work as well, but we also participate in like some of the film students' works as well. So I've done like a few like mini movies or something, and I very much love to like do script work, but that's for my future years. So at the moment we're doing a lot of improv. I kind of want to be like either very much into the acting industry, so like just doing films. I'm very much into action, so but if that doesn't go good, then I'll just be a drama teacher in sixth form, hopefully. I used to do like a drama and theatre group work outside, well, when I was in sixth form, so I kind of did like plays in my local theatres with a theatre company, but it was kind of like a small thing for a village that I used to live in.
When learning to live on their own, a young person will need guidance and support to help navigate the next step of their life. That's why the council provides personal advisors, support workers that are assigned to various young people to help them in this process. Whilst in Wisbech, we spoke with Matt Bullen, who provides some insight into his role as a PA and what he does to support young people.
I do a bit of everything with young people. A lot of it is about sort of building a relationship with young people and then kind of helping them lead independent lives. So when they leave care, a lot of them have a few question marks about what direction they're going to go in. So my role really helps sort of hone that, look at some skills. It might help with employment, might help them with benefits applications, might help them with some sort of training or college, housing, accommodation, things like that. Sometimes just giving some advice and just helping out really.
From time to time, the care system sees themselves taking in asylum-seeking young people who have migrated from outside the UK. Maz himself entered the UK as an unaccompanied asylum seeker. He, alongside many others, had to face the challenge of learning English whilst juggling with their studies. This can be daunting, especially since they're finding new life in a country they had no prior experience with. However, an educational program called ESOL offers unique classes for those who speak different languages. At West Suffolk College, Anne Short speaks to us about the support ESOL offers to its students and how it can benefit their educational lives.
We look after, at the moment we've had just over 2,000 ESOL enrolments this year, this academic year, so it's a big provision. And of those, we do have a large number of refugees and UASC and care leavers. So the way we support students, all students, when they first come, we need to ensure that they are feeling very supported and confident in their new surroundings. So we'll start with routines and learning what their aspirations are and putting together pathways so that they can work towards a progression route to where they want to end up in their future, or the future as they think they want at the beginning. Invariably, it changes.
Throughout their time in education, students like Maz and Tyler are offered support for their studies, especially for their transition into higher education. We interviewed two support officers from ARU and Cambridge Regional College, where they discussed their roles in supporting young students at their campuses.
So I'm a Schools and Colleges Engagement Officer at ARU, and within that I work within the outreach team. So my main focus is supporting students in their transition into university, so I can work with students from year 7 all the way up to applicants. And my key areas are supporting children who are in foster care or care leavers, along with SEND students as well.
So my job, I suppose it's quite a wide job. So I oversee the looked after young people and care leavers. So I will support around raising attainment, increasing attendance and participation. I provide sort of wellbeing support as and when is needed.
Lauren is Tyler's direct support worker at CRC, where she offers him various forms of support throughout his educational life.
So she helps with care leavers and people in care, obviously, at CRC, and she's been my helped for the last 2 years with like my pet meetings and basically telling my parents and me my progress in college and how she thinks I'm doing, and any problems I have in college or like at home that I want to talk about with someone, she'll talk to me about it and help me out and see like what the problem is and see how she can help. And over the last 2 years she's been very helpful with helping me out in college.
So it could just be, sometimes it's the background support, so it might be just kind of keeping on top of how he's getting on. So I might then liaise with tutors to get feedback, liaising with Tyler directly just to kind of get how he's getting on. I would lead on the PEP, so I'd create all of those documents and do that. If he needed careers, I would sort of arrange those appointments for him. So I know he did quite a lot with our careers team and with the virtual school as well. So it was quite a collaborative approach to that support to get him to apply for university, which he is going to in September, which is wonderful.
Not just participate in a sport. I just found myself, as more I teach it, I was like, this is what I love. So I want to go to reach that goal. Like, just take one step at a time, and then I might be like one day, the kids feel like how I felt, when I was at school, participating in the sport, not just participating in the sport, but the road to it as well. For me, I think it would be rewarding at the end.
When young people move into independent living, budgeting and financing is one of the first things they have to learn to do when living on their own. It can be very stressful and challenging to decide what to spend on in regards to rent, food, and other necessities. Cara and Shannon talk about how they manage their financing and what they do to balance their bills.
I've been learning how to budget ever since I was like 15, because we did this thing called Independence with my foster carer, and I just put like every single week I just spend like £20 on food, and then I obviously have to spend like £100 on rent each month, and then I have like enough like money to put into my savings and like for spending, so I get paid I think around about 300 almost.
It kind of hit me really big because I was like, whoa, I've got so much money, I don't know what I'm doing with it. But opening a student account really helped me with that because I could split my money in two. So I had some savings that I could use for like, I don't know, if I run out of money or I just need to pay something real quick because like I need, like if it was hot, for example, if I wanted to buy a fan.
I would say I try to put like as much as I can into my savings, and then like if I need that for emergency money, then I always have that to fall back on. I would say spending almost £150 in a clothing shop, that was probably something I regret most, but ever since, yeah, but I don't think I've ever really went into a clothing shop again after that because, I don't know, I feel like I've got the clothes I need after that, so.
I never really had a problem with rent as per se because like mine got paid straight into the uni, but I do feel at the beginning I did splash out too much on like necessities because my university provided those for me if I have to sign, well, you have to sign up for it, but I felt like I did spend too much on that.
No, I always try to like understand what thing I'm looking for, like the whole point in going to the shop, and then I just like I focus on that thing that I'm trying to look for in the shop, so I don't really like nothing else catches my eye and then I want to go and buy that.
So when a young person reaches 18, they are eligible, or usually eligible, to apply for benefits. So we can just help with that whole process. It can seem a little bit scary, a bit daunting to quite a lot of young people. So we can just talk them through the process and guide them and help them with applications and things like that. Show them how it works with the job centre, any ID requirements and all of that sort of thing.
As a young person turning 18 for the first time, it can be extremely daunting to move into your own living space, especially considering you may not have a say about where you want to live. In my case, I moved into the Ely Young People's Project in 2015 after spending 2 years living in a residential home in the town of March. It wasn't until after I moved into Cambridge in 2016, I had to wait 3.5 years until I could move into my own apartment at the age of 22. Shortly after Kyra turned 18, She moved into the YMCA hostel in Bury St Edmunds after living in foster care with her siblings.
It was very scary. I did cry on the first night I came here, and I tried my best to push through, and I eventually came out the other side. I think everyone will, so I don't feel like that's something that you really need to worry about, because everyone gets through at the end. So yeah, I would say I manage very well on my own. Most people that are in foster care that I know, I would say I manage more than them, and I always try to put the tips that I've got onto them, and it does actually really help them.
As you begin to move out of care, the County Council will offer a few options of accommodation for you. Some young people move into their own apartments, some move to temporary or shared accommodation, and some move onto the CHS hostels. One of these hostels is the Staife, which offers semi-independent tenancies for many young people, including care leavers. We went over there to show what a hostel can offer to accommodate care leavers and what financial support they'll receive. One of the Staife staff members, Richard, was very kind enough to talk about how the Staife offers that support and how it operates as a home.
Well, I'm a support officer in the Young People's Project called the Staife in Wisbeach. Young people from 16 to 25 can access the project. I'm one of 4 or 5 support officers on site, plus a site manager. Regarding how we support the young people, primary is really from when they first move into the project, is really the way to maintain their licence or tenancy, depending what they've got signed up for. Well, financial would be if they're coming into the project, do they need to be on benefits? How are they going to support themselves? How are they going to feed themselves? How are they going to pay for the rent? A small amount of rent is normally required from the landlord. Housing benefit, again, may need to be applied for. So anything regarding the situation that young person is in at the time. Universal credit claims as well.
After speaking with Richard, we then sat down with 2 Staife residents named Bethany and Amber, who shared their experience of living in supported housing.
I really like it because it's helped me so much. Since I moved from my mum's and that, I've gained so much independence, and I've learned how to do so much more things. I've got a job now and I'm working, and I've just become more confident in what I can do. And I've moved to one of the back flats, so I didn't just live in the rooms. So now I know how to pay out all my bills and stuff, and I've had loads of support from the staff, and I've made some really good friends. And yeah, I like it.
I feel like there's ups and downs to it. It's nice, you get your own place and you have your own independence, but you still have that help if you need it. And it's I don't know, when I first moved here, I didn't know how to do anything, but now I know how to do everything by myself.
We got a small staff team. We communicate really well. We have a sort of a rota system, so we're not on site or working 24/7. But the project is run 7 days a week. The landlord has in place a night guard, a waking night, overnight as well. But I think the relationship is pretty good. Most young people take on board the support and normally engage with that as well.
One of the staff, Jo, she used to live in a hostel, so I can really connect to her on a real life basis, if you know what I mean. And Zara, she literally acts like she's everyone's mum. Richard just orders us all Dominoes, and all the other staff are lovely too, and they're all really nice and caring. If I ever had a problem, staff would be the first people I go to, not even in just general, in anything. If I needed help picking up, I'd still go to staff for support, or if I needed help paying a bill, staff would help me.
Yes, they try and help me as much as I can, and getting through things, or with college or whatever I need.
If anything was to ever happen, staff know what to do in situations, say someone come on site that they weren't meant to, they have protocols what to do, or say someone tried to do something to themselves, staff would be able to support and help them and stop. It's a really good safe place to live.
We have food bank and stuff if we really need it, but yeah, it's I don't know, it depends how much you get and whatever else.
These projects are exist for one reason, that's to move the young people on to their own independent living. And I think overall, the only thing that would hang back on that is the properties that people can move into literally outside, that's limited. So of course it's not that easy to move young people on, even when we think they're ready to move on. You know, going through the bidding for properties, home link and stuff like that does take its time, but that's the only thing I'd say.
It was inspiring to hear what these young people have accomplished in their independent lives, so it was only natural to ask what their life was during care. We asked Maz, Tyler, and the twins what they first thought when moving into their respective care homes and what they look back on most fondly.
First thing, I wasn't sure about it. A little nervous, you know, strange people, I don't know them. But the experience before I moved in my foster care, because moving around a lot, like for the 2-3 months, is like no place to settle. So I just felt like that was a lot better. I lived with Frank and Jennifer Snow, was in Woolsocking, but before that was placed in a temporary care home. So that was just Victoria, and that was in Wisbech, you know, I think it's part of Norfolk or Cambridgeshire.
So it started off a bit bumpy where I went through so many social workers. I think in the first few years I went for about 5 or 6, and then it started to get better, things started to get sorted, and I've stayed in the last placement I have been for the last 12 years and I've not seen any problems since. I stayed with some people after I moved from my foster family. It's hard to remember because it happened like 12 years ago. So I stayed with them for like 2 years, and then from what I can remember is they tried to keep me and my brother for a bit longer, so the placement I was supposed to be at for like the last 12 years got delayed, and then so I could have been there in 2009 rather than 2010.
I lived in like a household with 2 foster carers that had their own children, as well as my siblings that lived there.
I did have great foster carers, but I still felt quite out of place with other students because like they'd always talk about their parents as if it's like a normal thing, but with me it was like, oh well, it's kind of complicated with that. But I did struggle to make friends, and I did struggle to get along with people because we had like such different lives. But like as I've grown up and gone to uni, it's completely different because like you meet people who are exactly the same as you and you have similar like experiences, but overall like I did struggle quite a lot.
Well, I only lived at one foster placement, but and I'm still in contact with them now. I actually have a good relationship with them, and then I have a key worker here as well as a PA who also helped me with my budgeting, and I've gotten to the place where I am now.
During our visit at the YMCA, we saw that Cara and Shannon shared a close bond together, having spent so many years growing up in care. So I sat down with them to ask about their shared experience in the care system and see how their relationship remained strong throughout the years.
Well, she obviously lives in Wales, but anytime she comes over, we sort of just like support each other. We relate a lot to each other because obviously we were put through the exact same experience.
We are like paired, like we are always together. Even though I live so far away now, we always talk and we're always making sure we're okay. And I really felt like staying with her throughout my childhood really pushed that like relationship because well, we're twins, so we kind of always got along.
So we were sort of like able to just like pull each other up and power through. And obviously not everyone has like a twin sister or like a sibling to go everything like through it all. But I feel like without her, I probably wouldn't have gotten like as well as I have gotten on.
She was always supporting me through my acting and whatever I wanted to do. She was always there supporting me, so.
After a week of speaking with so many amazing people, it makes me proud to see how far these care leavers have come. They have demonstrated that anyone can adapt to the independent world and come out stronger as a result. It's our hope that young people about to move out of care will have a massive support network waiting for them when they do. If you feel as though you're about to enter a new chapter of your life and you're uncertain of how things will play out, I want to assure you, you won't be alone.
We want to make sure there's options for young people. We want to make sure that they don't feel that they've got any closed doors. And that's a tough job. There's only so much we can do as a local authority, but I think when we're working collaboratively with other charities and employers and bringing in grant funding, we can cover a lot of this. So for me, the purpose of this is just to make sure that every young person who leaves care can get the same opportunities and not have any obstacles or any boundaries or any barriers, and make sure that, you know, that we are taking our parenting side of corporate parenting seriously.
Really, don't panic if you don't know exactly what you want to do, because nobody is expecting you to have some sort of crystal ball. Nobody knows what's going to happen, and just trust the fact that we are here to help. Personal advisors are not scary, and you can drop us a text or a call, and we'll always try and help if we can. We might not always be able to give the answer you want, but we will always tell the truth, and we'll always do our best to help wherever we can.
We have a step-out document, and then we do have a local offer for young people. So we'll pass on this information, access to services. We kind of like give them that encouraging information, because obviously we've worked with other 16-year-olds just to encourage them that it's not going to be scary as it seems out there. You've got support, and making sure that, you know, the stepping out document is fully utilized and they've gone through this either with their foster carers or, you know, or the placement where they are.
When I was going to turn 18, I was looking quite forward to becoming more independent and not relying on like social workers to get stuff done for me. So I was quite looking to that aspect of being more independent and generally going on into my own life and seeing what I can do.
I would say, like, just see yourself, like your future self, as like a friend of yours that you don't know, but you want to treat them really nice, so then your future self be really grateful that you actually saved up that money, and that, you know, you're taking care of your future self, so you won't have to run out of money, and that you will be like, that'll be one less thing you have to worry about.
I found ways to like overcome like the loneliness or the like empty void, I guess, because I find that having the lack of parental figures is kind of daunting on a child, but once you overcome it and you seek help from your foster carers or people around you, it's a lot easier.
You know, I feel like more relaxed now. I'm more like, because I'm a grown adult now, and I'm happy that I lived in foster care, because that taught me, like, you know, that was a stage. You know, now we moved on to a different stage, like adulthood, so you're growing up as well. So don't say you go early, explore a lot of stuff, and then, so hopefully one day you reach like this point I am, and you look back at it and you feel like, oh, actually it was wonderful, you know? So it will be rewarding at the end, so just don't rush at it.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope, like me, you're giving a big round of applause. There is no better time than we're sharing this inspiration to bring on the filmmakers themselves. So please welcome, and in the chat, give a big round of applause for the amazing Matthew Cooper and Daniel Kilfie. Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Hello. Hi, guys. Hey.
Hi,
It's incredible having everybody here. What a pleasure. Wow. Hi, guys.
Thanks, Matthew.
Massive audience. Oh my goodness.
Before we jump into the chat, we've got some other guests to invite, but I would say thank you to all of you that have been commenting in the chat. We're having the most incredible comments in here from people saying just the most wonderful things about this film. And I think the real tone of those that have been reading the comments is how wonderful it is to have that youth voice. And I think Matthew and Daniel have done a wonderful job of bringing in some of that youth voice into the film. But as I mentioned, we have some really exciting guests alongside Matthew and Daniel this evening. So let me quickly introduce to you all who we've got joining us this evening. Those of you will know me, I'm Fran Borman. I'm the founder of Goal 17, and we do a lot around care leaver mentoring. But most importantly tonight, we've also got with us, obviously, Matthew and Daniel, who we're going to hear from. And I'd also like to welcome the fabulous Chris Wilde. Many of you will know him as the best-selling author of The State of It and Damaged, two incredible books books about his personal experiences of leaving care. And I will let everyone introduce themselves as well. And Chris will do an introduction too. And we've also got the wonderful Patrick Spence here. If you don't know Patrick, you will probably know his work. He's the producer of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. Probably, I believe, Patrick, you will tell us probably one of the most watched dramas, at least of this year. So fantastic to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us. Just before we really get stuck in, can we just do a quick round of introductions? Matthew, if we could just start with you. Obviously, we know you're the filmmaker, but just lovely just to hear from you and a quick introduction.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am Matthew Cooper. I am the writer, director, and presenter of The Next Step.
Thank you, Matthew. Chris, should we come to you next?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Chris Wild. I'm the author of Damaged and the State of It and the campaigner for young people and children in care.
And Daniel, how about yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Daniel Kifel. I'm a cinematographer and sound recordist for Next Steps.
And Patrick, last but by no means least, let's come to you.
Hi, I'm Patrick Spence. I'm the producer of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office and a bunch of other factual dramas on TV.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all to have you here. And we've got 30 minutes now just to kind of really ask you guys some questions and find out a little bit more about the development of this film and also the plans for the future. So before we get stuck into it, if anybody in the audience has got a question they would like to ask, please do put it in the chat. I can't promise we'll do all of them, but if you do put any questions in the chat, we will try and come to them and answer your questions as best we can. But I'm going to kick off things by coming to both Matthew and Daniel and asking both of you guys, tell me, what is it that motivated you to make this film, and has it had so far the impact that you hoped it would?
Yeah, Dan, I guess you want me to comment first?
Yeah, you go on.
All right, so I think I'm so sorry, Frank, can you repeat the question?
Yes, so what was your real motivation, Matthew? Tell us how it came about that you actually made this film, because I understand you were at university, is that right?
Yes, a very good question. So I guess this all began, this time last year, actually, where Rebecca and Joe, who are actually the producers of this film, as I was wrapping up my final year of university, they basically approached me for wanting to make this film. They basically said, oh, hi, the council basically wants to make a film like this, basically showing young people what it's like transitioning from care into semi-independence. They wanted me to make a documentary about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm on board. And then everything just went from there. We took it step by step. I told Rebecca and Joe exactly how the film should be made. I basically wanted it to be based off I wanted it to be realistic, emotional, and impactful, if that makes sense. I basically wanted people to, how I directed this, I wanted it to basically reflect my experience or the general experience of young people moving from care to semi-independence. And how I did that is through interviewing these young people, and I did it based on I basically did it based on questions I asked, what's it like moving from care, what sort of experiences have you had, how did you manage moving out for the first time. I feel like all this, it was very important for me to get across this because I wanted this to be because I wanted to tell this kind of story, just make it as emotionally impactful as possible. And of course, Rebecca, Joe, and Dan were all on board for that. And from what I can see in the comments from all the positive reception, it seems like we succeeded, and I'm very honored by that.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. I think you definitely have. And Daniel, what was your role that you played in this? Because I know you've also produced other films yourself around your own experiences of immigration and care. What was your role in this?
My role was all the technical stuff lighting, cinematography, and sound, because we were the only crew for this film. So for me, it's it is the easiest story to tell, because as I was a care leaver and a refugee, so when they approached me to contribute to this documentary, I just it's easier for me to be involved in. So
Thank you, Daniel. And Chris, I'd love to ask you. You've spent many years advocating and trying to get big improvements in the care system. You've obviously got your own lived experience as well. How is a film like this going to be really helpful to other young people that are going through that transition?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, commend you, because you could have made that very differently. You could have made it about the melancholy and the trauma what people go or suffer with when they're coming through that transitioning period. But I found some positive kind of elation there. Just there was something there what made me feel, oh, finally, there's something about the care system which isn't dark and dull and cold and dangerous. Although there is that aspect of it out there. But this was positive, and it's such a scary thing transitioning into independence. I mean, first of all, let's not normalize it, because it's not normal for any kid, 16 to 18 upwards, to be forced into independence, to be forced to live in those conditions. Most kids that age are living at home with mom and dad. So let's not normalize it. But if you have to go through it, we want it to be positive, don't we? We want to make sure that these young people, these brave people like Matthew and Daniel, have all the right support. They have all the same opportunities as their peers within education and employment. So something like this, for me, is refreshing, because I come from a really dark side of the care system. I was in a really dangerous children's home. I came back into the system 30 years later as a professional and seen, but nothing had changed. So my journey was slightly different, and it took me years and years and years. But I kind of focus on that part of the care sector more, because you can't forget about it, because it could easily resurface the mistakes of the past. So again, just that was for me, just finally something to kind of put out there for young people to say, hey, look, it's not dark, it's not scary, it can be positive. And again, commend you both. What a great piece of work, a nice project.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And those experiences, again, is those that I think work in the sector really want to make sure that people understand those challenges. Patrick, you've obviously been at the forefront of using film to drive massive national change and, dare I say, outrage. When you see a film like this, how can you imagine that Matthew and Daniel can use the skills that they've developed in films like this to help educate the wider public and sort of challenge some of the views that Chris talks about?
Firstly, I want to praise the film as well. I loved what Chris just said, by the way. I think I loved the way the film opened with people talking about how nervous they were and how scary it was, and that just immediately drew me in. Immediately made me feel this film is gonna be honest and involving, and I think that's half the battle, is allowing any audience to feel that there's something in it that they can relate to and connect with emotionally. It was a beautiful beginning, and I was also blown away by how instructive it was and helpful and positive. It's a really beautiful piece of filmmaking. So I think my answer to your question, Fran, is really simple. It is somehow through, I'd imagine, a kind of guerrilla campaign of every technique you can think of, this film needs to be seen by as many people as possible. And I think, I'm lucky I make drama, and inevitably that means, because it's quite expensive to make, that it gets put on a network, and so you have the possibility of being seen by a large audience. These guys are going to need to figure out ways to get it in front of people on as many different platforms as possible and as many different outlets as possible. And I think that's about hitting the phones and asking people to share and doing all the obvious things, because I think it's a film that people are going to want lots of people to watch. It's now's where the work begins. I think you asked about this how can they use their skills to get it seen. I think the key thing I'd say is they have already made the film. They've done the hard bit, and now they need to figure out ways to get it seen. I'd love to hear Matthew and Daniel talk about how that might happen. But I think all of us should gather together and do whatever we can to persuade other people to give it a view.
Matthew, Daniel, did you want to share any thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. I just want to say, Patrick, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for your positive comments on the film. Like, it's a real honor to hear about that. And Chris, thank you for sharing your experience on your experience in the care system. And yeah, so in terms of how we're getting the film out there, so I think what I wanted to do is, I mean, it's not something that has been heavily discussed yet, but I think what I was hoping to do is maybe potentially put it on festival runs, maybe get this shown at I don't know, at the BFI in London or something. Those are some initial ideas, but that's basically that's all I can think of at the moment. But I do agree with Patrick in saying that, yeah, I do want this to be shown as to many people as possible, especially like care leavers. I think is considering because the care system, it has its ups and downs. You know what I mean? At one point, it's a great benefit to multiple young people out there, but at the same time, there are definitely some downsides. Like I said, moving them out at 18, and that's the whole point of us making this film. And I feel like it's like what Chris discussed. Like, there's definitely a massive dark side to the care system, and there could be a lot of potential negative things about it. So I think, and yes, it was important to me to make it for me and Daniel, Joe, and Rebecca to make a film like this. Yeah, to make a film like this, just to basically just so I know it's a more positive experience. Yeah, and I also wanted to say that even though like what I just said in the comments, that hope was one of the main themes of the film, and even though I think it looks like it's going to be okay, I did want to emphasize, it is going to be scary. It won't be easy. People are going to go through emotional hell when they initially move out, just like I did, and what many people will. But I think, and it will take some time for people to find their footing, like I did. But I think eventually it will work out in the end. But I think people definitely have to work. But basically have a lot of a few steps to go through before they can get to that point.
Matthew, thank you. And always for your honesty and real openness with this, because I understand when you started this, it was also quite hard to find young people that were willing to feature in it, and even yourself, there were some reservations. And Daniel as well. What were your feelings about actually doing this, and how did you encourage others to be part of this?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how did you find it was getting people involved in being part of the film? And I know, Daniel, where you've done other films about other refugees and so on, often people are reserved about wanting to share their story. They don't want to share their story. How have you found that you've been able to persuade people to be part of the film?
Well, yeah, last year I've made another documentary film in France. It's about the refugees who try to come to the UK, and it was really hard to convince them to talk about their experience and their life. It was really struggle, but in this case it was easy and it was fun to make it. So I think the goal is the idea is to show to as many young people as we can, basically. So it's a good idea if we send it to institutions that support young people, and yeah, and maybe online streams like YouTube and Vimeo or any platforms would help to showcase the film. Yeah.
We've got on the call today hundreds of people from all across the care sector, and in the chat it's so heartwarming to see so many people saying, I can help spread this in my local authority or in my local organisation. We've had somebody offer something about another film group, so thank you everyone. But I think that's really what we're talking about here, isn't it? The coming together of lots of people to all see if we can share this far and wide. So I promise after the call we'll make sure that we reach out to everybody and anyone that has any way to help share this. We'll obviously leave Matthew and Daniel in control of that, but allow them to connect up so that anybody that does want to share it can can do that. We've got some other questions in the chat. So Sarah says, Matthew and Daniel, if you were given a budget and free choice, what subject would you like to tell the story of?
Oh, so I guess so free choice in terms of like anything, like not just documentary, like narrative dramas.
Anything, Daniel.
Oh,
what would be your next show?
Oof. I mean, I think yeah, a very good question, Sarah. Thank you. I think for me personally, like I'm a massive fan of because I'm a massive fan. I basically want to tell like because eventually when I do get into the industry, I want to. So I'm a massive fan of like the sci-fi drama. Sorry, a massive fan of the sci-fi genre and character-driven narratives. That sort of stuff I want to do. But in the meantime, in terms of like much smaller projects, there are a couple of contemporary short films I do want to get off the ground. So I think, for example, so there's this one short film that I'm having the works in the moment. It's basically about this young person. So it's like similar to this. It's about this young person trying to move into their own apartment, but at the same time dealing with the loss of their mother. And it's all during it's actually set during the COVID-19 pandemic. So if I had to choose, because I have so many projects in my head, but if I had to choose one, that's one that I'd definitely love to. I'd definitely like to make for stars. I hope that answers your question.
That's a brilliant answer, Matthew. Daniel, what about yourself?
For me, I like social commentary films. So even without budget, actually, I've started writing my feature film now. So I'm in the process here. So it's about refugees, but not particularly about refugees. It's a drama about a refugee who lives in the UK, and it shows that the difficulty of assimilating with new culture, language, and stuff like that. And I want to talk about culture, language barriers, and all the psychological effect of being a refugee in the UK. So that's my next project.
Fantastic. Thank you, Daniel. We've another question come in. What's your hopes for the care system with the forthcoming election? There is a very loaded question. I think we might need to come to Chris on this one.
Yeah, well, listen, there's lots happening. We've been lobbying Parliament for the last 2 years to make care experience a protected characteristic. We've got 96 councils pass that motion. But more than anything, we need the next party to really put the care sector on the map. I would like to see less monopolized, so it's not becomes a money-making mechanism, but it puts the young people at the forefront of their objectives. I want to see more opportunities within work and employment. But most of all, I say this all the time, and I can't stress this. This is my life. This is what I've had since I was a child. This is what I do now professionally, is that children in care are still children. We've got to start treating them like that as well. They're not aliens, that we shouldn't be segregating them, but also it's living proof when I come onto things like this and look at Matthew and Daniel, think, look how talented these kids are. And just look at the talent these young people have. And it's our job to nurture that, to give them these opportunities, because we don't know, he might be making a Hollywood movie in 10, 20 years. And there's so many young people out there with this talent. And I want to make sure that that's seen. And that's what I'm saying to government officials, parliamentarians every single day is we can do two things here. We can create a pathway of success, or we can create a pathway of destruction. The pathway of destruction that leads to homelessness, it leads to jail, it leads to criminal organizations. The pathway to success is invest in these young people, watch them thrive, and then they'll get good jobs and they'll invest back in the economy. So it's a no-brainer for me. We put the money into the sector and we help these young people create great things and live their life. Why not? And become the next Matthew and Daniel.
I love that, Chris, and I think there'll be lots of nodding heads and lots of people agreeing here. Yeah, lots of people already saying "well said." So thank you for that. There's another one that's aimed at you, Chris. Please do keep the questions coming in the chat. Chris, do you find it essential for all care leavers to complete some form of life story work?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for me, it saved my life. I left school with no GCSEs. I didn't even go to school for the best part of my life because I was in the children's home, ended up on the streets. Writing saved my life. It really did. And when I started to write my book, I just got married, I had a baby, just bought a house. My wife was going to divorce me because I had all these traumas. I didn't get any therapy. And when I started to write and go back over my life, I realized that there were some really quality times in my life. It wasn't a horrible childhood as such. There was moments there, moments of nice moments, good memories, putting that together, life story work. But it helped develop me. It helped me find my identity. And as a care leaver, you lose that. That's the first thing you lose is your identity because you don't have the same upbringing. So writing, being creative, for me, it's therapeutic. I ended up going to drama school for 3 years not because I wanted to become an actor, but I needed to find myself. I needed to find scripts which I could relate to. And that all goes back to writing and story works. It's so important for young people to have that. Yeah, absolutely.
And leading on for that then, Patrick, in terms of you're talking to young people, from your side, from the creative side, what are the best ways for young people to actually start telling their story? Chris obviously has leaned very much on writing. How can other young people get involved in telling their story through film and those things? What have you seen that works out there?
Well, writing is the best way of doing it because then you're in control of what the story is and you're the one who initiates it. And the way to become a writer is to do exactly what Chris did, which is to sit down and write and write and write and write and write and write until you learn your craft and you get better at it. It's like woodwork or football or singing or anything. You don't just step up to the microphone and sing beautifully, and you certainly don't write beautifully to begin with. So whatever you're writing, you need to write a lot to find your voice and find your craft. And then if you want to something to happen quickly, as a writer, the best way to do it is to write something that doesn't cost a lot of money to put on. So that goes from writing poetry and books and regional plays, and writing self-published books. If you want to write for film and television, it takes a while longer because it's a craft that has a high level of demand on the kind of experience that you bring to it. And I don't mean that you have to have made lots of television, for instance, to write for television, but you have to have written a lot of scripts before you can write something that is filmable. That's just the kind of the obstacle of getting in. But if you want to write, you write. In terms of other ways of joining in the storytelling, everyone involved in a television or film production is their own version of a storyteller, whether they're in production design or casting or directing or acting. They are all craftsmen very much in their own right, contributing to the storytelling process. But the creator, the original vision for a story is the person who sits down with a blank page and writes it. So I would encourage people who want to do what Chris did, which is find their voice, work out what's happened, work out how they feel about it, to write in any form: prose, poetry, music, screenplays, whatever. But if you want people to see it and read it quickly, I would stay away from television to start with, because it's harder. It's harder when someone has to spend £3 million an episode to make it, to get people to hear it. But it's much easier if it's a song or a poem or an article or a book. I say that as if it's easy to get a book published. Chris will tell you it really isn't. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I just mean it. There's if you write something that is really good, it's going to get published very quickly.
I think one of the really interesting things about this film, what Matthew and Daniel have done with this as well, is they know their target audience. They really want young people to see this. Isn't that right, Matthew? And I think that's meant that it's been it's spoken to them in a way that they understand. And if we look at the comments in the chat, so many people have said, gosh, I want my young people to see this. How did you kind of achieve that, Matthew? What was your sort of thought when you set out wanting to do this for young people?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said earlier, I mean, the whole reason why I wanted to do this film in the first place is just, again, just to show, just to give young people hope. Like one of the main themes of this film is hope, because transitioning into how do I put this? Because transitioning into semi-independence or getting through life in general, it can be rough, but it's just all a matter. I think what I've learned is over the years, I don't think it's, I mean, it varies from people. I may not be the right person to say this, but in my experience, it's all a matter of circumstance. It's all a matter of a state of mind. And I think it's when making this film, I wanted to show young people that, oh no, don't worry, it's not good. It's not going to be like a crappy life, for the rest of your days. I wanted to make this film to show young people that potential, that, oh no, yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is something exciting waiting for me in the near future. There is going to be hope, and it's just all a matter of them to push through. I think it's also to assure them that. But I think what's very important to let young people know, because when they move into semi-independence, like me, Dan, and hundreds of other young people, you can feel very alone, especially since if you moved into your own apartment. So I think it's very important to emphasize that you won't be alone. You'll still have all your friends and family to support you, and a massive network of personal advisors and support workers when you do. So sorry if I explained that. I'm sorry, that was a massive answer. But yeah, it's basically, it's just to show that but at the end of the day, it is very important that many young people watch this as much as possible, just to show that just for that that alleviation, that reassurance that, oh no, don't worry, it may be rough at first, but everything is going to be okay, and that you're not alone.
I think that's, and what a wonderful message to put out there, Matthew. Sarah's asked also, on from that, do you have any hope in terms of what caregivers and other stakeholder adults will take away from this? So not just the young people, but do you have any kind of real ambitions around what the caregivers and stakeholder adults will take away? What is it that she's sort of asking? What is it you want them to know about the young people, the care experience young people?
What the caregivers think of young people. Is that
So I think when they see the film, what kind of hope do you think it'll give the other stakeholders? And anyone, please feel free to jump in on this.
I think Sarah, who's just sent that message, is an amazing person. She's the CEO of the charity Comfort Cases, and I think Sarah's one of these great human beings who just listens to young people, and she's learning all the time. So I think what she's asking there is, what can they take to improve their services to help young people?
Daniel, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think what I will say is, I think what I hope for caregivers to take away from this is that when they do, that just kind of goes without saying, when people, when young people do move out, I think caregivers should bear in mind that, what kind of emotional, what kind of impact it will have on these young people, especially mental health wise.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm sure a lot of people, caregivers, would do that, but I think it's important to give as much emotional support as possible. It's going to be a rough time, especially for people with like I said, mental health issues, or even in my case, mental disabilities, because I'm autistic. And so at the time when I moved out was 2 weeks away before I turned 18. And you can imagine it was a bit of a pleasant experience for me. So emotionally, I was a few years behind, and I cried my eyes out when I first moved out. And as you can see, I got through it. So it's very important to I think those are the key words here: emotional support. So definitely give that as much as possible. And thankfully, I had that, and I really hope other young people will continue to have that as well.
What an amazing message, Matthew. And I think that goes beyond this group really to, I would like to implore any adult in there. And I know we've got lots of people that have joined this call who are not involved in the care system at all, but just wanted to come out and find out more. And what young people want is that emotional support. And we talk about, in the care system, we talk about corporate responsibility being the responsibility of the local authorities to look after these young people. My view is it's community responsibility. We all need to be there for these young people. They are the children of our communities, and we all need to be there, and every single adult should take that responsibility to support a young person, whether it be their own or a young person in the care system in their local area. But thank you so much. We are out of time. So I want to say the most massive thank you, firstly to Patrick and Chris for sharing your insights. Hugely helpful and really great to hear from both of you. So thank you so much. But of course, I think the biggest thank you has to go to Matthew and Daniel for creating something so wonderful and being brave enough to produce it and to share it with us all. Thank you to also then finally just to everyone that's tuned in this evening, and to all of you that have made offers to help promote and share this. We will contact you because we want this to be seen by more people. I know Matthew and Daniel want it to be seen by more people, so we will reach out to everybody and work out some channels to make sure that this does get shared and that more young people can see it. But thank you so much to everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us, and we will be in contact soon to talk about how you can continue sharing this wonderful work. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks a lot, guys. It was a pleasure having you here. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.